Choosing what moon you want to go to in Lethal Company isn't the easiest decision. I mean, of course you're going to avoid any moons that are eclipsed or stormy, but what if they all have great weather? Which one do you choose? Well, there's one in particular that stands out just a little more than the others. Assurance. Why, you might ask? Well, there's a few reasons. Let's get into it. For the sake of this video, we're just going to be comparing Assurance to the other Tier 1 and Tier 2 moons simply because of the fact that Tier 3 moons cost credits. To start off, I jumped on every moon and I timed how long it took from the moment the seed popped up until you were actually inside the facility, of course taking the fastest route on each moon. In last place, we have Vow coming in at 33.97 seconds. Next was surprisingly Offense. This was doing the pipeline method where you jump off the ship as it's landing onto the pipeline over to the fire exit. This came in at a surprising 31.77 seconds. In third place, we have Experimentation. This one coming in right behind Offense at 31.67 seconds. In second place, we have March. This was taking the fire exit behind the ship. It was the closest fire exit. This one coming in at 26.20 seconds. And in first place, of course, we have Assurance. This was using the rock method where you run off of the ship as it's landing onto this rock, over to the pipeline, and into the fire exit. This came in at 13.53 seconds, which is half the time it takes compared to second place. You might be thinking, well, I can only take that route once when the ship is landing. What happens when I need to bring all my loot back to the ship? I'm going to have to climb up that ladder every time. Well, what if I told you you didn't have to climb up that ladder every time? Here's the secret sauce. Get your items, jump up onto this pipeline, and drop them down to the floor. If you do this every time, you'll never need to touch that ladder again in your life. It gets even better. Once you finish dropping your items, if you want more loot, you have a straight shot to the main entrance. If that already wasn't enough to convince you to go to Assurance, let's take a look at what's going on the inside. First off, we're going to take a look at the minimum and maximum amount of loot that can actually spawn on these moons. Experimentation is going to have a minimum of 8, max of 12. Vow, minimum of 10, maximum of 13. And Assurance, minimum of 13, max of 17, automatically making it the best moon for loot out of all the Tier 1 moons. Offense has a minimum scrap of 14 and a max of 17. March has a minimum of 13 and a max of 17. So even though Assurance is a Tier 1 moon, it pretty much has Tier 2 loot. But what's the point of all this loot if you can't find it? Well, you will be able to find it. Why? Because Assurance has the smallest inside map compared to every other moon. Experimentation and Assurance are both going to have a map multiplier of 1, making them the smallest maps. Vow with a map multiplier of 1.15, Offense 1.25, and March with a map multiplier of 2, making it the second biggest map. Not to mention that Assurance is the least dangerous out of all 8 moons with a hazard level D. Although the hazard level is pretty low, there are still some threats you're going to want to watch out for. Let's take a look. So we already know Assurance really isn't that dangerous, but let's take a look at some numbers. Here's a chart of everything that can spawn indoors. Snare fleas, hoarding bugs, and bunker spiders are going to be the most common at about a quarter chance of spawning, but none of these are really that dangerous. You can pretty much avoid or run away from all of these guys. The only real threats, other than the Ghost Girl and Nutcracker, which will pretty much never spawn, are the Thumper and the Bracken. Thumpers have about a 7.5% chance of spawning, which is already pretty low, and with the new version 49 update, Thumpers are a lot easier to get away from, so even if you do get one, you should be able to get away from it safely. If you don't like Brackens, I have great news. Assurance has the lowest chance of spawning a Bracken compared to every other moon we've gone over this video, other than Offense. Things can get a little scary on the outside if you're on the moon for a while. Earth Leviathans have about a 50% chance of spawning, and Eyeless Dogs about 40%, but as long as you use the loot drop methods from earlier, you should be able to get your items back to the ship pretty quickly. And that pretty much sums up why Assurance is Lethal Company's best moon. If I got any information wrong, please don't tell anybody in the comments, and if you're not going to Assurance after watching this, go ahead and hit that dislike button and never watch any of my videos again. Later.